Hey, so welcome to Trimming the Musical Fat. I'm Stephen Nicholson.
And I'm Paul Nicholson.
And you join us for a very special episode of the show as we celebrate our first year anniversary. It's been 1 year since we released our first ever episode. So Paul and I thought we would jump on today just to chew the fat and do our first ever TTMF Unscripted. So Paul, we're doing this today, and we're also doing it slightly differently as well, in that we're also recording the video for the episode today to complement the audio. And the reason for that is we've been given early access to a new feature which is on Anchor, and Anchor is owned by Spotify. So Anchor hosts our podcast, and they are now offering the ability to record your podcasts, yes, with audio, but now with video, and you can then release the episode as both a video and an audio one. So you'll only see the video one on Spotify, if that's where you listen to your podcasts, and for everybody else, it will be the audio version. So this is the first time we've done it, so this is a bit of a test for us as well. But yeah, anyway, Paul, we're 1 year old, and the Beatles' White Album was released 12 months ago. Our episode dedicated to that. Can you believe it?
I know it's went by so quickly the last year, but in some ways it feels like we've been doing it a lot longer as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, but yeah, no, it's been a good year.
We've done a lot in 12 months when you think about it, because I know we kind of said at the beginning that we would want to do one episode a week. And a lot of that was driven by the fact my main podcast inspiration is a podcast done by Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack, and they host Rebel Force Radio, and brilliant podcast dedicated to Star Wars, and they do one every week. And you think, it must be easy doing a podcast every week. It wouldn't take that long to do, surely. And I suppose experience has taught us that that's wrong. It takes a lot of time. So how have you found it? What lessons have you learned over the last 12 months?
I think probably just like what you're saying there about putting in, I guess when we first started doing the podcast, it was all new and you were just kind of like trying to do so many. But at that point, you don't really understand how much goes into creating a podcast, a show, and all the stuff behind the scenes. So for me, probably that's been a big learning thing, and just trying to create a good balance between doing that and other things in life. And I've got jobs as well, so that's probably been a real lesson as well about self-care. And yeah, a big thing I've learned as well is about, how podcasts are actually very supportive of each other, podcasters as well. And it's not really like a competition, although for some it might be, but I really believe the majority, it's a really supportive environment. Yeah. And a big thing for me was getting to finally speak to people who you'd listen to their podcasts and inspired you to start a podcast, and then actually having them on your show. That was amazing. And just realizing they're just normal as well.
That's one of the things you've been good at, though, in kind of making those introductions with a lot of the podcasts you've been listening to, and I think turning me onto them, whether it's Sam Wiles, Paul or Nothing, or Eric and Eric at Face the Music, the Yellow podcast, and so on. And I think the other thing is other podcasters reaching out to you as well. I shouldn't forget In the Lap of the Pods guys, who you listen to. But then other podcasters reaching out to us as well. For example, I think most prominently probably Marv from Pods Like Us.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally agree. Yeah, actually a lovely way to meet people, make friends.
Making those connections.
Yeah, just get
people all over the world.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I totally agree with you about the time aspect, and that's something that you definitely do need to manage. And I think it's like anything in life. Over the first 12 months, if you start a new job, not the hardest, but the time you're going to learn the most is in that first year. A lot of trial and error, picking up knowledge, listening to other people, trying things, success, failure, and you just learn from it, don't you? And I think even for us, from the technology aspect of it all, you're just trying different ways to make it better, your podcast sound better or look better, or how you go about giving people extra material, bonus stuff. Whether so now I suppose we should mention that we're now on Patreon. That went live yesterday. So with Patreon, you can actually financially support the podcast now, and in return, will get rewards for that. So there's 4 different tiers, and the first tier, I'll see if I remember this off the top of my head, but with the first tier, you get early access to our episodes 1 week in advance, and we'll also give you a shout out on the show. At the second tier, you get all of that, plus you'll get exclusive podcast episodes, most namely the Patreon exclusive, which is Trimming the Classic, where we go in and we'll pick an artist, an album by an artist, which is a classic album. We'll discuss it, talk about our favourite songs from it, but also which song would we take off it. Because there's usually always one song in a classic album you think's maybe not up to the standard of the rest. I'm really quite excited by that series because I know we've already put our Nirvana Nevermind one, and coming up this week, actually got the recording for 2 U2 ones, Actung Baby and Joshua Tree, which I'm really looking forward to doing. Although I think we might need to reschedule again because one of the guests is friend of the podcast, Brian Borthwick. And unfortunately, he's now got COVID. I don't know, did I tell you that? Yeah, he's got COVID.
No.
So we might need to reschedule that because his son Josh and partner Gerald, they caught it at the beginning of the week, which is why we had to reschedule the initial recording to this coming week. And now that might well have to be rescheduled again. So we'll see. But yeah, we've got some good stuff coming up for the Trimming the Classic. We've got Bon Jovi, Slippery When We Met, Appetite for Destruction, by Guns N' Roses, Metallica's Black Album. I think we've got Radiohead's OK Computer and the Bends, and a lot of other good stuff. So yeah, looking forward to doing them. So yes, you will get them if you sign up to the second level of our Patreon. I think the third level is all of that, plus you will get the video editions of each of our episodes. And the final tier is all of the above, plus that is the most special one. You can actually choose the album that we cover on one of our episodes, and you can actually come on and guest on it. So, which would be great fun. And there may be stuff that we like, there may be stuff that we don't like, but I like that. Gives you the opportunity to listen to something new. So, yeah, what are you thinking about that yourself, Paul?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'd be good to have someone on who enjoys the show as well and gives us an album to record, to go over. Because, to be honest, even some of the albums that we've done, I haven't really heard them before. So it's something that's quite good, actually, coming in from a fresh outlook. So no, that'll be good. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think that we've got one coming up in 2 weeks, which is going to be
good, but yeah.
So we've got one coming up which we're recording in 2 weeks, and it's the Stone Roses' Second Coming, much maligned Second Coming. And me and Paul are not Stone Roses fans at all. And it was actually a couple of friends of ours who had said, you should do that one. And I thought, okay, let's do it. We may end up liking it, we might not. And actually, this is going to be one of the guests on it is a friend Mark Poole, published author Mark Poole, and Mark lives in the Lake District, so he's actually going to be travelling up to Scotland, and so
we're for that,
yeah, and some football. So yeah, Mark's coming up, so we're actually going to be recording that our first ever episode in person. So yeah, so obviously you and me, Paul, Mark, I think Davy Mellon. And Ross, maybe somebody else.
I think Ross.
So yeah, we're actually all going round to Davies and record that live. So it should be good fun. Are you looking forward to it?
Oh, I mean, I'm looking forward to the time we're doing it, but not actually listening to the album. I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah.
You know what though? There's a lot of times it's probably, I don't know, you're expectations are so low that it can only be better than that. So maybe.
Yeah, I know. So I suppose delving back into the past, what did you think when I first came to you with the idea of doing this podcast?
Yeah, I think it would have been in 2020 during the pandemic.
Yep.
And it's always something. I think we've always listened to podcasts away, probably the mid 2000s.
Yep.
From then. So I never would have dreamed of doing a podcast, but because of lockdown and everything, podcasts became much more popular because people realised how really good they were in a way of reaching out to people who maybe were isolated.
Yeah.
And so we kind of, I think, come up with the idea in 2020, but also as well, like listening to other podcasts inspired us as well. Because I listened to a lot more during lockdown.
Yep.
And we'd sort of come up with the idea, well, why don't we do one? Yeah.
So I know for me, the idea for doing something like this was before even podcasts existed, and the thing I always remember was the Smashing Pumpkins album, Adore. And just always thought there was far too many songs on that. I had the CD and just thought it would have really made a good, a great shorter album. And that's always just stayed in my head. And I thought that over the years with other albums, and that's where it came from. That's really been in my head since, the 90s going forward. And it's nice we've got a vehicle to kind of do that kind of stuff. And talking about podcasts, what are your own favorite podcasts to listen to?
So quite a mix, actually. Probably half are football sport ones and half are music ones, movie ones. But probably my favourites would be Lap of the Pods, because massive Queen fan, and I just like they're really, obviously we've did a show with them as well. Just like they're just really funny guys as well, without realising it as well. And I think particularly during lockdown, it's just what we needed actually, was a bit of humour as well, but also a real serious side as well, listening to the songs and what they mean.
Oh, they know their stuff. No,
they're really good. And another podcast I really like is Hearts Football Club fan one called This Is Our Story. And it's a wee bit similar actually to Lap of the Pods in terms of the humour. So as you can tell, I probably like humour a lot. And that's why I like a lot of podcasts. But I just, if something can make me smile and laugh, and I also learn something from it, it's good. So I'd probably say those two. But obviously there's a lot of other good ones as well.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I listened to podcasts obviously pre-pandemic, and when I was working and going into the office each day, that's what I would tend to listen to, probably more than music. I would listen to podcasts. But being at home, working from home for 2 years, you could actually work all day and listen to something at the same time when you weren't in meetings. So a lot of new stuff in that time. But similar to you, I like football or soccer related ones, music, movie related. So things like Rebel Force Radio, which is a great show. It's the United Hour, which is a Man United fans. So that's always interesting and good fun to listen to. But things like James Bond and Friends, Bondcast, Soundtrack Show, Lap of the Pod. You turn out in the Face the Music, an ELO one, and obviously we've got those guys coming on one of our episodes, and then just things like the guys that we've had on as guests. So Sam from Paul or Nothing, Marv for pods like us. So let's get one. Batman on Film, they're a really good podcast. So it's good.
Even when you think of the first ones we used to listen to, because I used to really like they did one for every James Bond film. Remember, was it? What was the guy's name?
I know. For your ears only.
Oh yeah, it was Adam. Was it Adam Fisher?
Adam Fisher, yeah.
Yeah, he was hilarious. So they were good as well, and they had a really good had that humour, but also they knew their stuff about the Bond films as well. So yeah,
That's what I liked. I think they guys in particular for me were a lesson in that you didn't have to have a recording studio to be able to do a podcast. It's you literally just grab your microphone, a computer, and get together and just do it. And yeah, I suppose those guys were actually a big inspiration that you could just set
pioneers.
up and do it. Yeah, just do it. And actually, coming back to In the Lap of the Pods, I nearly fell off my bicycle yesterday. I met Caroline for lunch. First time I've seen her in 3 years because of the pandemic, but that was at Portobello. So we're at the beach, had lunch there, and cycling home, I had on In the Lap of the Pods their Brian May Back to the Light episode.
Oh, they're very complimentary about it.
Yes, yes, they were not. And that was just so funny. And I think it was the comment that some of the stuff sounded like a musical, like Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah.
They changed it from Andrew Lloyd Webber to Andrew Lloyd something else, which which made me laugh. Yeah.
And the bit in they're talking about the bit in one of the songs where Brian May's doing like dialogue and he's pretending he's American.
Oh yeah,
it's like really cheesy and stuff.
Yeah. It was absolute comedy gold, which made me laugh. Now, I just received this yesterday, and this is no good for anybody who's just listening to this and not actually seeing the visual, but I'm about to hold up the most amazing poster that Paul has ever seen in his life, a framed poster.
Oh, very good. Very good. No, that's great.
Would you like to describe to listeners what you just looked at there?
A couple of handsome men on it's our logo for the podcast. Yeah, that's really good.
I just thought I'd get it. I want to have a couple of new posters for the attic here, and I thought, why don't we get one of our podcast covers? So there we are. That's
good.
That's my treat to myself for our 1 year anniversary. So, thinking to the future, Paul, is there any particular time period from an artist or an album that you in particular would want us to cover?
One that I was thinking that's a double album to try and make it to a single, which is really hard. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Elton John. I think that could be a good one.
That'd be good. Yeah, that would be good.
That's a good one to do. And think of another one. Maybe do more of the kind of what if episodes. They're quite good. Like in an alternate universe, if somebody had just released one album instead of 3 albums, and you had to pick all the best from the 3 albums and make it into one. Probably I enjoy quite doing those ones as well. It just keeps it. Yeah, it's good to. It's interesting to imagine what it could have been.
Yeah, agreed. I think the one for me, which I think would be a really good one, is Prince and Sign of the Times. So it's regarded by many, many people. I think probably that and Purple Rain are maybe regarded as Prince's masterpieces. And I think Sign of the Times is excellent, don't get me wrong. But there's stuff on it that I'd be happy to lose. I just always thought that was an album that could have been better as a single under 50-minute album all my life, ever since I bought it. So I'd love to do that one. And that's one I think you could make an absolutely incredible single album. And actually bought, there was a re-release of it last year, the year before, and I got it on, I'm sure, Peach double vinyl. I'm still not listened to it yet. I know in fact, there's so many records I've got lying here that I've not played yet. So I need to get round to it. And the other thing I was going to ask is, what about the upcoming episodes we've got planned? Any in particular you're particularly looking forward to?
Really looking forward to the ELO Out of the Blue one.
Yeah.
Because that's an album I've wanted to do probably since we started the podcast, because it's one of those albums that iconic albums that it's kind of back in fashion now, which is good. That was seen as a guilty pleasure before.
Yep.
So that's probably the one that I'm really looking forward to doing. I'm a big ELO fan, so that'll be a good one to do. What about you?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, more so from the fact that I've just in the last couple of weeks started listening to Eric and Eric from the Face of Music ELO podcast. And for those that don't know, Eric and Eric do one episode a week, which focuses on an ELO song, and they've done them in chronological order. So they're actually they're now getting to the near the end, and and Paul's been listening to them for some time, but I've not. And I love that their episodes are only 10, 15 minutes, and they're really well produced. They know their stuff. They're really, really good podcast. So it's great.
Eric Quinn Sensen and Eric Paul Johnson. I think that's I really like the bit at the end as well.
Yeah,
because they asked Madeline, one of Eric's daughter, what she thinks of the song. But of course, because the show's been going, because they've been going through the whole ELO catalogue, one song every week. Madeline's obviously was very young, and she's now older. And I just think it's really quite clever how to do it. Actually,
it's like when we had obviously my son Luke to listen to the album or song at the beginning, but then he got bored doing it. It's like, Luke, will you just listen to this Metallica album and tell us what you think? No.
Maybe if it was one song, maybe that's what the ELO guys are maybe good. Well, it was just the one song.
I even tried to get him into, right, here's the most famous song from this album. Will you listen to it? No. So that's went right out the window. But yeah, they do a really good show, and that must be a massive undertaking for them to do that one episode.
Well, that's been about 4 years.
I know.
4 or 5 years I've been listening to it.
And the thing is, they do a cover version of it themselves as well. So that's a huge undertaking. So I'm really looking forward to them guesting on our ELO episode. Yeah, just to speak to those guys. And hopefully we can make the time difference work there. Over in the US. That was it. So another thing which I suppose we've missed actually, which is quite nice, is, and the only reason I mention this, I was talking to Davey Mellon, again, a frequent podcast guest. I was out with Davey and a couple of people on Thursday night for dinner. Then we were going off to see the re-release of The Godfather 3. And a couple of guys from his work were there, and they were asking about the podcast and how many people listen and all this kind of stuff. And you ever been trolled? And I went, well, we've been quite lucky actually, haven't we? I think we've only ever had maybe 2 instances of trolling, which we were laughing about in the restaurant. I think my favorite, you remember them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was it last summer maybe?
Yeah, I remember. I think one guy, I think one guy was on a John Lennon Facebook group where I think we'd put out our What If episode, 80 to 84, which was basically what if John Lennon hadn't released Double Fantasy in 1980, hadn't been killed, and had kept on recording, and then put out a single album in 1984, I think it was, or 82, instead of putting out the posthumous release. Yeah. And I think one guy had put, as we promoted it on this John Lennon page, something about us profiting from doing it. And it's like, really? And I don't even know if I replied. And if I did, it'd be profiting. When this podcast costs us money to do.
No, I know.
We're certainly not profiting. It costs us. No. And we do it because we love the music and we love the artists that we feature, especially John Lennon. So that was amusing. You remember another one? I just remember, again, we're promoting it on somebody's Facebook, a Facebook group, and a guy just called me a rude name.
Was it not about Paul McCartney? Was it about something about you Brits? No, they don't say something almost quite judgmental. What was it? He totally didn't understand what what we were trying to do, I think. And then was it not one of the songs wasn't as good, or I can't remember. And he was offended that we didn't like something, and he said something like, "Yeah, typical Brits" or something like that.
I don't know. I just remember the guy had just called me a not very nice word, and I replied back just a question word, just like, why? And I think his mature response was, "You heard?" Well, I didn't hear anything, no, because you typed it. And then I kind of looked at his profile, and you're like, yeah, it's and
the world of social media, isn't it?
And you just
always going to get.
Yeah, I won't go into it. You just thought, yeah, okay. There's really no point engaging with somebody who obviously
keyboard warriors
has extreme views and has 2 brain cells. So yeah, so there we are. But yeah, that was. But again, I think that much like the podcast community, I think when you promote the podcasts on a lot of the Facebook groups for the artists that we feature, again, very positive experience, comments, likes, and so on. And in the day, people who, when they like a musical artist, they do like to discuss the artist. They like to hear things about them, and people like some things, don't like others. There shouldn't be any hate. And one of my pet peeves is the people that are the real sycophants. You can't say anything negative. And it's like, right, so would you say, this person that you're a fan of, every single thing they've done is absolutely wonderful and is not worthy of criticism? And that's what you get, unfortunately, sometimes. Let's be honest, as good as any artist is, they sometimes make some poor or bad songs. That's just what happens. No point in pretending that you love it. And if you do love it, great, but
unfortunately, and I think social media has played a big part in that as a society now, you're not allowed to have a different opinion. If you do, you're lambasted for having a different opinion. And you're either, somebody agrees with you, but if they don't like your opinion, you're evil. Even if you don't like a certain song. And because you have to be truthful as well, because a lot of the musicians that we love, you've still got to be honest as well and say that's not that good.
Yep.
Because you're not, if you just say everything's great when it's not, you're just being false.
Yeah, I think so. I think what's interesting right now is, for example, why do I keep hitting my microphone? Leave it alone. For example, Ghost have a new album out, and we obviously did a Hidden Prime Cuts episode dedicated to one of their songs very recently. So they've got a new album out, and I follow one of the band's Facebook groups. And honestly, they're almost at war with each other, because some people think it's the greatest album of all time. Some people think it's terrible. Some people think it's all right. And it's like, right, can people not just have different opinions on it?
Certainly, when I think about, because a lot of the albums that we do, when we're promoting them on Facebook groups, it's generally, quite a lot of them you're already part of a Facebook group for that band or artist. What I found was, particularly, I think you had the same experience. I joined a lot of Pink Floyd ones when we were doing the Wall album, and as soon as we promoted it, it came right off them. Because just so much.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, depending on the band, the type of fans they seem to attract.
Even the moderators as well, the people that ran them, some of the the rules and stuff, and it was almost like
draconian. You can't post this, you can't post that. And sometimes it's like, right, is the moderator the only people allowed to post anything on these groups? What's the point?
That's what a group's for.
I know.
And the thing is, it's not like, the frustrating thing is we're not making money. We're paying to do the podcast. We don't make money or anything.
No.
And they're,
I know. I think another good example in just the last 48 hours or so, Muse have put out a song, and I forget the name of it already, but Now you like Muse as well. Muse are one of my favorite bands.
Mhm.
And they've put this new song. I've listened to it a couple of times, and I have to say I'm not. I so far it might grow on me, but I'm not a fan of it.
Mhm.
One of the things that just personally I don't do, I won't go into a Muse group, which I'm a member of, and say I don't like it. So, why rain on somebody else's parade who does like it?
Mhm.
But then it's like war on there as well.
Mhm.
A lot of people, this is the best thing they've ever done. You think it's really, really, really far from the best. But anyway, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But if anybody expresses an opinion that they just don't like it, God help
Mhm.
them.
Mhm. You're not allowed to have a different opinion.
And for me, it's not. Again, I might grow to like it. It's not a good song, so why would you express an opinion that you think it's wonderful when it really isn't? But hey, that's life, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's life. So I suppose we'll make, unless you have anything else, we'll perhaps wind up this unscripted show, Paul.
No, that's everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose we just want to say thank you to everybody who has listened to the show over the last 12 months. A big thank you to those people that are part of our own Facebook group. So, thank you for joining and staying with us. And as ever, would love to hear from you. So if you've got any comments, or if you want to hear us do a particular song or album, we'll have a discussion about anything, please let us know. We'll love to interact with you guys. And yeah, here's to many, many, many more years of trimming the musical fat. Yeah. Anything you want to say, Paul?
No, just echoing what you're saying there and thanking everybody for listening as well, and even people contacting us like suggestions for shows, and just thanking also the podcast community as well for supporting us and helping us grow the podcast as well, and hopefully we can do that for other people who are just starting as well. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Thank
think
you.
it's well known when you do a new podcast. Podcasts, new ones tend to be a slow burn. Take time to gain traction and word of mouth and so on, and obviously build up your catalog. And maybe people might be looking for a particular band and they stumble across one of your episodes and say, "Oh, I like that band as well." So these kind of things take time. So I think we're delighted, certainly over the first 12 months, that so many people's listened and engaged with us, and yeah, we want to keep that upward
And a
trend.
big shout out to you, particularly because people don't realise that Stephen edits the podcast and does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that, yeah, people don't necessarily see, but that takes up a lot of time. So
Sure
thank you to
does.
you for doing all that.
I thank you very much for that. There you go.
Hmm.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Happy anniversary again, Brother Paul.
Happy anniversary.
Yes, and I think look out for our next two shows, which are the Patreon exclusives. So that's you two, Zach Tongue Baby and Joshua Tree, so Trimming the Classics. And I think our next publicly available to all. And the next two are John Lennon's Hidden Prime Cuts, which is the Cheap Trick version of I'm Losing You. And I think the next album one after that is Bon Jovi's Keep the Faith. Yeah, and yeah, we've got lots more after that as well. So yeah, we'll need to get on scripting duties and listening before that. I think April is a particularly busy month in terms of, I'm sure there's got at least one recording a week in April. So March has been quite quiet actually in the grand scheme of things. April is going to be pretty mental. So until next time, keep trimming.
Okay. Bye.